Well, it's going to be hard to top those two initial panels. So I'm in a very tough spot, I have to say. But with the caliber of the speakers that I have with me in the panel, I'm sure we can do our best to kind of top those amazing panels. I just want to kind of synthesize two emerging ideas that have come up in the previous two panels that I think are very important. And by the way, I love the analogy of a Mexican competing in sports in the United States and being successful with the business community and the Mexican business community competing in the United States market, right? And if you think about it, it's kind of the same. Less excitement, right? It's less sexy, but certainly the same. And the idea of being humble, working hard, and adapting to the opportunities that are presented to you, and the idea of having a support network, right? You can be hungry, but you're not going to make it on your own. I think those are very, very valuable ideas. And I'm very happy to introduce a panel of rock stars on their own right, and we're going to be talking about what I think is the central theme of this conference, which is how do we accelerate economic integration between Texas and Mexico? And I'm very happy to be moderating this panel because we have represented in the panel the Texas Association of Business, right? That, as you know, represents the business community of Texas in general. And Daniel, we're very grateful to have you here in the panel. We also have our feature state, Yucatán, and Roger is going to be talking to us about how Yucatán is becoming the new border state of Texas, right? And how we can do business and kind of integrate that. And Nobel is a very successful businessman from based here in Dallas, right? In the greater Dallas area, Frisco, but the greater Dallas, that is aggressively investing in Mexico. And I think it's going to be interesting to get his perspective in terms of how is he seeing opportunity in Mexico and kind of that integration between our two economies. So let's get started, and I would love to start with you, Daniel. And I'd love for you to give us a perspective of what's happening in Texas in terms of the business opportunities. What's the direction that Texas is taking as an economy, the 8th economy in the world, right? Yeah. And what's the role that Mexico plays in that success story? How has Texas been historically linked and working with Mexico?
Yeah, no, happy to talk about the Texas success that we have experienced for several years now. Let me, quick introduction. David Zapata, Vice President for International Affairs for the Texas Association of Business. I know that our name can be sometimes a little misleading, but we are basically the Texas State Chamber of Commerce. We are the Chamber of Chambers here in the state. We are the umbrella group that houses not just the members, individual companies, but also other local and regional chambers, as well as collaborating very closely with some of the main trade groups across the state, which there are many. So we're basically the hub of information. Now, I know that there's many Texans here, but I know there's also several visitors. So for those Texans, please bear with me. Let me just share some of the reasons why we believe Texas has been very successful and why it provides so many opportunities to keep growing economically with Mexico. So again, for those visiting us today, welcome to Texas. We're glad to have you, and I hope that you find good opportunities to stay even longer term and be successful in your enterprises. So as Fernando mentioned, Texas is the 8th largest economy in the world. The goal of our governor is to be the 7th largest economy. We are about a $2.7 trillion economy, just to give you an idea of that. So we have our leadership has worked very steadily to make sure that economic opportunity is a staple of Texas. So a couple of very basic reasons. We have no personal income tax, no corporate tax, very stable regulatory environment, and the goal of our government leaders is basically to make it easier for businesses to establish themselves and grow in Texas. A couple of years ago, I was working for the Texas Secretary of State's office, which processes the business registrations, LLCs, and the goal of the office is basically to make sure that businesses are able to operate within 1 day or two. So again, speed, facility, stability, making things easier for business leaders to establish themselves here. It's actually a goal of our government. Now, on the business side of things, as a chamber, I'm glad to report that we have a very strong collaborative environment in the state, a mentality where we, as chambers of commerce, as economic development groups, we are always happy to collaborate, to share information, to try to make sure that whatever business comes to one area, if they're interested in learning about another area, that they're able to find the right contact to explore that area, be it San Antonio, being Houston, Dallas, the border, so on and so on. Getting to the point of international trade and the Texas-Mexico relationship, a huge part of the Texas economy is international trade, and specifically with Mexico. Our economy has a trade relationship with Mexico of $281 billion. The second largest relationship is with Canada at $75 billion. Just that. I mean, our second largest, we are like, Texas-Mexico is almost 3 times as much that with Canada. That said, we still love our Canadian friends. North America, it's great. Texas has, out of the 49 land ports that connect the US and Mexico, about 28 are just in Texas. So just competitive advantage regionally, competitive advantage in our business environment. All of these factors play a huge role in making sure that we have a strong relationship economically with Mexico. And then last point is the USMCA. Ever since before the USMCA, since NAFTA, we have seen a huge growth of the business relationship, particularly along the border area. I mean, it caused a lot of growth. And when the USMCA came into being in 2020, anecdotally speaking, China used to be our number 1 or second trading partner, depending on the year. But since the USMCA, it established itself that Mexico and Canada became our number 1 and 2 main trading partners for Texas. So again, the USMCA has been very good for the Texas-Mexico relationship, and I think solidifying more opportunities as we move forward, I think it's going to be even better for us. And again, I think the USMCA, the relationships that we have with Mexico already through organizations like IAMA, I think they'll be crucial. And as we establish new ones with states like Yucatan, I think it'll be even, again, we will expand the number of opportunities that we can find together.
And David, it's not like Mexico is selling goods to Texas and Texas is selling goods to Mexico. It's really a platform where we're building stuff together to sell to the world, right? I mean, if you could speak a little bit more about kind of the economic integration of the supply chains between Mexico and Texas, I think it would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, when people think of Texas, I mean, they focus a lot on the energy sector, which it's great. We love our energy sector, and that's one of our main ones. However, there's been a huge diversity of growth among industries in our economy. I mean, lately, the financial services economy, we become the second largest hub of financial services in the US. And again, anecdotally, JP Morgan has more staff now in Texas, Dallas area than in New York. The innovation semiconductor area is also has seen a huge growth. I mean, we have huge investments from Samsung, from NXP, other semiconductor chip related companies. The space and the aerospace industry with SpaceX, Blue Origin, based here in the state, and Boca Chica for SpaceX. And all of those key areas of growth, I think, are of great interest for some of our partners in Mexico, and those partnerships already exist. I mean, we talk to friends in the Rio Grande Valley area, and they're already providing some certain supply chain parts for SpaceX. So again, those opportunities exist, and the connectivity is essential. And just as a point of reference, we depend it's not just one side is winning over the other or anything. We depend from each other. Just as a side note, I mean, during COVID, for example, just to make the point, during COVID, we heard from companies in Texas when I was working at my previous position at the Secretary of State. Company X was telling us, please talk to our Mexican partners because our providers cannot function at a certain level that we need them to make it work for us in the U.S. So if the Mexican side is not, if we don't collaborate with the Mexican side enough, there's plants and industry in Texas that will cease to exist, or that will cease to function, for example. So collaboration, we depend on each other, and I think that we can do things better together when we align ourselves to make sure that we are, again, complementing our strengths. And in those industries that I mentioned, I think there's great opportunities to collaborate with our Mexican partners as well.
And I think that's a perfect segue to kind of pass the voice to you, Roger. And kind of typically, you wouldn't think Yucatan, right, as a border state to Texas, right? And you guys are pushing this idea of we're the new frontier for Texas, and using Texas as a entry point, right, to become part of the North American platform, right? And why don't you tell us a little bit more about what's happening in Yucatan and how Yucatan is pushing this very bold vision of integrating yourselves into the North American project.
Of course. Thank you very much, Fernando. It's a pleasure for me to be here. My name is Roger Góngora. I'm the Under Ministry of Economy for the Yucatan State. And from the governor and also from our secretary, he sends his regards. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to come because he had to attend the visit of our Madam President, Claudia Sheinbaum, in the state. This is a good sign because she's over there in order to have the kickoff of two of the main projects that are on the Mayan Renaissance, this project that we are working on. And before answering that question, I would like to give a little bit of context. Why are we pushing the idea of Yucatan being a frontier? So this is just a map, so you get a quick sample of how well connected we currently are. We already have maritime routes from Yucatan, from Progreso to Houston, Panama City, also to Manatee, Jacksonville. And after that meeting I have with David, also we hope to have more with different, like Corpus Christi and some other ports in the area. So we will have to add like 220 miles to that frontier statistics. So we already have these routes, and we are working along with the federal government, with the private sector, in order to push to improve the conditions of Yucatan. As you can see, we are at the end of the country, let's say, but at the beginning also at this big corp of water, which is the Gulf of Mexico. And these 4 projects that we have been working on, which are strategic projects along with the federal government that are going to allow us to be more competitive. One of them being the modernization and expansion of Port of Progreso. We are going to have like a bigger navigation channel, also adding 80 more hectares of platform inside of the remote platform that we have. The second of them is to connect Port of Progreso with the Mayan train. This is going to be the first phase of the Mayan train that is going to be cargo. Nowadays it's for passengers, but it's going to swift to cargo. I mean, not swift, complement by cargo. And this is going to allow us also to connect the Yucatan Peninsula with the Corredor Interoceánico, which is the alternative of the Panama Channel that we have been working in Mexico. The third one is the development of 4 industrial corridors, where we are like working on all the capacities that the industry needs. Gas that is coming from Texas. We are already using Texas energy, and we thank you for that, because this is going to allow us to have also more energy production and distribution in the area. Just in the next year, we are going to almost double our capacity installed in the state. Also, we're creating infrastructure, even the railway, the Mayan train, also highways. And if we can go to the next slide, just to give you a quick example of what kind of sectors we are pushing and trying to, no, can you go, Wendy, to the, yeah, thank you very much. So we're working on, no, is it over there? There you go. Sorry, I just want to do very quick. I can share this presentation with you at any time, and always glad to talk to you more about the details. This one, please. So these are the 4 different corridors that we are pushing, these industrial corridors. Some of them Mayan names, as you can see. And these are the sectors that we are working on currently. From renewable energy, naval, I mean, we have these 80 more hectares, and we're having like 42% of just the cruise ships passing by. We're working on finding a shipyard, maybe a natural gas station over there. Also working on semiconductors and ICT and cybersecurity, and the logistics and distributions. This is something important to know. Companies as Amazon, as Mercado Libre, as Walmart already have a distribution center in Yucatan. And this is because the strategic locations that we have. This is something that we want to keep pushing, and we want to work as a government along with the private sector, they were just kind of the deciders, or the promoters of these 4 projects. The governor, before starting, he got together with the private sector in order to design the plan that we needed to implement to be more competitive. They actually here with us, and I'm really glad that you could make it, that you came with us, because this shows how are we working along together with the private sector, with the federal government, and also with the subnational government of Yucatan. So I just want to leave you with this idea. There are a lot of things going on right now in Yucatan.
So, Roger, when people talk about nearshoring, right, as an abstract concept, this is what an actual platform for nearshoring looks like, right? As people are thinking of relocating supply chains from Asia into the Americas, this is a perfect playground for manufacturing, logistics, services even.
Correct.
Right?
I couldn't agree more with you, Fer. I mean, we are taking these global challenges into local opportunities. We're very close, and as you probably know, all these tariffs are going to leave us with also opportunities, because we have to substitute the importations that are coming from Asia, and having a partner that is just like the new neighbor in the block could be a great deal for both of us.
You have an open book, a greenfield opportunity to build whatever is needed for the North American market.
That's correct. I would say we have a white canvas with a lot of paints, a lot of colors. We have the human talent. We have been working a lot in generating this talent with universities. Just the following years, we already have 5 different new universities that are going to be opening in the state. 3 of them being public and 2 private ones. So this is something that you should look at, because this is a historical moment for Yucatan. That's why our governor called this project the Mayan Renaissance, because we want to bring the best times for the area.
Excellent. And again, when we think about nearshoring and kind of these big concepts, right? We listen in the media, the issues in the Panama Canal and the confrontation with Asia, and you start looking at solutions. This is part of the solution, right?
Yes, of course. And also we know about the logistics that are being a problem, or like a
bottleneck.
That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. A bottleneck. That's why we're working on this railway and also the port, so we can be more connected. And also working on the manufacturing, let's say. Also the ICTs, where the frontiers just vanish. But the time zone become a very important thing. So from the infrastructure part to also the talent, we're trying to put together these 2 markets and see how this could be a symbiotic relationship at the end. It's a win-win situation.
And maybe that's the kind of the perfect segue to pass it to you, Das, because again, we hear about nearshoring and integration between Texas and Mexico, and it all becomes very theoretical until it gets to a practical businessman and actually deciding, I'm going to invest in Mexico. I want to use this as not only as a market in itself, but as a platform to serve clients around the world. So, I mean, you're a very successful businessman based here in Dallas. I believe you were named kind of Entrepreneur of the Year at some point by EY. You are a very, very successful technology businessman, and then you look south into Mexico and you see what? Why would a Dallas, Texas-based entrepreneur like yourself think of Mexico, and what are you seeing there, and what are you liking, and maybe what would you want to see more?
Sure. Thank you for having me, and I just want to give a shout out to the Texas Secretary's office. Anything you do with them, especially the registration side, you get things done in 24 to 48 hours. So we've been very impressed. So whatever you have all done, great job on that side. Just quickly before I answer the question, MTX provides technology solutions for government and enterprises. We had a 2030 vision approximately 5 years ago that talked about global expansion. We launched APAC initially, then Europe, and now LATAM, headquartered out of Mexico. There's three things I've been looking in the last 5 years, making an investment. One of them is that speed to market realization is very, very important. And also understanding your customers and what they need in terms of availability and resources and having that in the same time zone. And the third thing has been always in my mind, just operating the APAC area, which is the one China policy, right? So thinking through all of that, and we have 1,000 employees in India, very successful operations, but even in the midst of all of that, we always know that customers want things faster. They want people to be available. And that's where your question is that the nearshoring concept was very relevant strategy for us, and we're in the middle of that. While we serve the enterprises and the US government in 38 states, there is a greater need for resources and almost working around the clock. While we are doubling down on our India investment, it's almost like is a following the sun, that we need all these people to be working around the clock. And Mexico has become our go-to strategy for nearshoring. We're in the technology space, and there is a double-edged sword, right? Because people expect things faster in technology, and having resources available out there. So I've gone to Mexico probably approximately 10 times in the last 2 years, personally meet people, businesses, and look at is that what is Mexico is able to provide, and how are other companies that are more successful out there having a nearshoring team. And I have that level of comfort that we can create our foundations out there. But I always encourage the government in Mexico to kind of look at what Texas has done. It's a business-friendly policies, and I talked to a lot of congressmen and women in this state. And by the way, MTX was headquartered out of New York State. I've lived there for 23 years. I still support a lot of the sports teams out there. Having the opportunity to move before the pandemic to Texas, I've got even more appreciations for Texas and the business environment that it allows. And it's not just good for Texas and business itself, it's good for Mexico, because Mexico is one of our primary partners in the trade and economics areas. So I encourage the Mexican states to look at what Texas has done to reduce in terms of response in other areas, because we all expect things faster. And lead with technology innovations, because technology will disrupt and technology will enable, and that's going to bring speed to market. So for me, I always talk about speed is my middle name. You know, you got to bring speed to every aspect of business that you bring. So, and I think especially Yucatán and the neighboring states have, go there in that area a little more often than any other part of the Mexico. I think there is a gold mine in that aspect in terms of trade. And I think in our dinner last night we talked about there is a superhighway between Yucatán and not just Texas, but also some of the other states in the Gulf Coast area. Innovation, technology, and the same time zone is going to really drive the progress in the future.
So you are seeing that general narrative that it's being presented, Mexico as a big nearshoring hub that complements and supplements the business opportunities and the value chains that are in Texas. You're actually seeing that.
Absolutely. Talent upskilling, it has started in Mexico for some time ago. I think kudos to the Mexican government and also the enterprises making those investments. Also realizing is that having that the massive borders, right, that we get to associate and the business opportunities. So for us, it wasn't questions about whether we can find the right resources. You have over 100 million populations. If this was 20 million, well, there's a different ballgame, right? So when you have 100 million population, even if you look at Philippines, they have over 100 million population. They become nearshoring for Australia, Singapore, and some of those other countries. And I think even the language, the barriers is reducing. So for us, we feel very comfortable. In our organization, we have a lot of folks from Mexico that operates and some of the best performers. I think confidence level is high that some of the foundation that has been put in place. Now, the question is that how do we get to expand that foundation in some of those other states? And I'm really excited about the Yucatán state in terms of what they can provide in the market for the next few years. And we'll continue to support the superhighways from Yucatán to rest of the states in the US. And obviously, the Texas will lead the way in that. We're headquartered out of Texas. I made a conscious effort to invest in Mexico over the last 2 years. And personally, not just that, in 2017, MTX built a school in Mexico, and we have 500 students in that school. It goes up to 12th grade. So we're really, really proud about the investment we have made in education. I think that's going to be a strong foundation and upskilling people in technology and AI. So it's exciting to see what Yucatán and some of the other states has to provide.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, and it takes me back to what Ramon was saying on the first panel, right? This mentality of this is not only about business, this is about helping and integrating into the communities, and it's a very interesting mirror, right? How Dr. Simi is making philanthropic investments in the United States, kind of a well-known Mexican company, and MTX is making philanthropic investments in Mexico, even before doing business, right? So kind of leading with your values, super important parallel, right? I wanna ask you guys kind of a quick question, and then I wanna turn it to the public, because I think most of the most interesting dialogue happens with the audience. But David, from your perspective, what would be the hypotheses of the areas where the Mexican and the Texan economy can integrate further, right? I mean, if you look at the USMCA, a huge portion of that is the automotive sector, right? So, I mean, as North America, we've created kind of a fantastic production platform for automobiles, right? And electronics. And if you start breaking down the categories, probably 2-3 categories capture 80% of our commerce, right? So what are you seeing as the new engines of growth for Texas? And how are those engines of growth important in terms of making them engines of growth of the relationship between Texas and Mexico? What are you seeing as opportunities?
Yeah, no, for sure. But you know, let me give a high, shout out in a way to the automotive industry, but that's still being a highly important sector in the relationship with Mexico, and still there's a lot of technology components that are developing to be part of that industry. But I think the ones that we are seeing a lot more interest over the last few years is, I think, so many of you know, many of you have heard that there's the growth of the semiconductor chip, AI, technology-related industries. Over the last few years, we've certainly received, hosted delegations from Mexico, not from Yucatán yet, but hopefully soon.
Soon, we'll fix that.
But interested in collaborating, merging on software development, technology, brainstorming development, exchanging engineer trainings with academic purposes from our academic institutions. So I definitely see that high advanced manufacturing, software, AI, semiconductors, aerospace, it's definitely one of the next
So more of the high value added stuff.
Yeah.
It's not the maquila anymore, right? The low cost labor, it's the opportunities the higher value added stuff.
Right. I think that's the new opportunities there are. Like the maquila, those are there.
Those are there,
the
and
new ones
important.
that are developing and that can provide a higher level of value, not just economically, but security-wise, in building up the relationship between the U.S. and Mexico, are those areas where it's going to be like basically the new industries that are already extremely important in the relationship. So we have several conversations with Mexican business national level groups, and again, they're come and ask basically point blank, how can we be part of that semiconductor supply chain production? So we have exchanged ideas as to how to, for Mexico to become part of that. So again, those are conversations that are already happening. On the aerospace front as well, we've been in the valley with some of the SpaceX friends, and again, the Mexican side being very upfront and in a good way. Again, I think that's important to say, like, how can we become even a larger part of this supply chain? So I think that better relationships also between our main academic institutions, something that I forgot to mention. I think Texas has amazing academic institutions such as University of Texas in Austin, Texas A&M University, UT Dallas. Again, there's plenty, and again, the more vínculos de colaboración entre universidades, alignment between universities, I think that can facilitate more trainings so that students in Mexico, Mexico produces so many engineers, which unfortunately for Texas, we don't have enough for the level of jobs that we are having. So some of those jobs may be able to be done remotely as well. So the more alignment that we can establish or collaboration that we can establish with our Mexican partners as to see how can we help each other develop even faster in those areas, I think will be key economically, but also security-wise, because in some ways, we are competing with China, for example.
Yeah.
We are competing with other regions. So the more that we start seeing Mexico as an ally, and that's something that we as Texas, and specifically as the Texas Association of Business, we strongly believe that Mexico is a partner, a friend, an ally. It's going to be key in the conversation. Yeah.
And then what I'm hearing from you, and I think it's very important, because sometimes when we, as AEM, when we talk to kind of Mexican business people and governments, they usually have an approach of, this is what I have and I want to sell to you. And what you're saying is quite different, is, okay, these are the engines of growth of Texas. How can Mexico be part of this, right?
Right.
So it's kind of not necessarily just pushing what you're comfortable doing right now, but actually thinking, how can we together be part of this new economic platform that's being built?
Exactly, and to be clear, because I saw Consul de la Torre, so we've been mostly talking to private sector in Mexico, but definitely would love to at some point expand to see what we can do with Mexican government. But again, the conversation, private sector to private sector, is being very productive, very healthy, and we hope that as we move forward, we can provide some actual results as to how to better incorporate the recommendations that we are identifying, and that will improve.
Roger, what are you seeing? I mean, you're kind of doing this roadshow to Texas, and you've been talking to multiple groups. What are your emerging conclusions in terms of what are the sectors and what are the concrete opportunities that you're seeing of integrating the Yucatan economy to the Texan economy and to the U.S. economy? What are you seeing? What are you sensing?
Well, first of all, I had higher expectations, and you overbecome it. I mean, it's amazing what's happening here. It's amazing to know what's happening, not just in Houston, but also in Dallas, San Antonio, and all the Texas region. I see a lot of opportunities for the companies that are already currently located here and also in Yucatan to start working together. I mean, this connection that we're going to have, this new road, as Daz was saying, that we're going to have from all the Gulf area, it's going to be an opportunity for both of us, from the trade perspective, but also from the investment perspective. And having this willing, let's say, from the local government, subnational government, and also from the federal government, it's a key success factor. I mean, we know and we're aware that the private sector is the one that are sometimes moving a lot of the markets, but we need to work along together with the Yucatecan government. I see a lot of opportunities on education. We went to the university and we got impressed at all the programs that you have and how they align a lot with the programs that we have been pushing and implementing in Yucatan, from software development, engineer, and all the STEM careers, but also from the agribusiness sector. Nowadays we have companies like Sounder Valley, like Mission Foods, investing already in Yucatan. Also we have let's say, like this logistic part. So to be honest with you, Fer, I have I've seen a lot of opportunities. I would like to continue this visiting, to be the first one of them. I mean, I'm sending back the message to Mexico, to the governor and to the secretary, that we have to do a lot of road shows, especially in this area.
Exactly. The continuity of the conversation is going to be important.
And I mean, we have a direct flight from Dallas to Merida and from Merida to Houston as well. So it's over there. We have to take advantage from both sides of it.
The infrastructure is there and the government is building more of that infrastructure. So
just waiting for us.
It's just waiting for the opportunities to materialize. Das, I mean, beyond your company, I'm going to ask you kind of a mental exercise. Imagine you're an investment fund, right? And you're seeing opportunities of collaboration and investment between Texas and Mexico. Where would you place your bets? Where would you think that there are interesting opportunities to create value between Texas and Mexico?
Sure, and I'm going to say something that is going to be very bold. Texas, in the next 20 years, in the semiconductor industry, is going to take a leapfrog approach, and by tenfold, compared to the next state. And for that to happen, and this isn't about a cheap labor or having a partner like Mexico. This is about highly skilled workforce. From the education and some of the upskilling, I think we're going to find that transition as a highly skilled workforce that could build, your smart devices, chips, that needs to be manufactured. I think there is going to be a huge transition, and I have a personal interest on that down the road. So, but that's one. The second thing is, most investors don't know what they're investing in, oftentimes, especially on the venture side. They like to follow everybody else is investing in. And in the last 18 months, we have seen more than 40% of the venture money went into AI investment. Mm-hmm. Crazy valuation. Most people don't understand how they get to those valuations. But the message is to attract investors to come to Mexico. They're creating their next Silicon Valley or the next Austin environment in Mexico. You have to incentivize the startup communities in Mexico, whether it's in Yucatán or some other places, that how do you support them? And if you get an investor from one area, then you will likely see that others will follow. And in New York State, there was an organization, NYSERDA, they supported a lot of those eco-friendly startups. When they invested, other investors followed. So I think government in Mexico do something very similar, at least facilitate that. And I invested in several dozen companies, and it gives me a lot of confidence that I'm not the guinea pig. If there is other people that are investing in those, then there is some good work has been done on that side. So I think that's going to be, those two is really, really important. I think that's going to create jobs, that's going to incentivize other people to kind of stick around in Yucatán, not necessarily go to Mexico City or Monterrey or Guadalajara, right? And I think those are really, really key. And I don't have anything against any of those other cities because our CEO is from Guadalajara. So I wish everybody incredible success. But I think for Yucatán to really kind of look at is that how do we incentivize and attract more investment? Because I personally have fun that I want to go invest in some of those places and create jobs, but also that's going to benefit Texas. I think this is a mutually beneficial interest to create and elevate their ecosystems. Not everybody has to go to Silicon Valley. And by the way, kudos to California and New York State to driving a lot of these companies to Texas. And so thanks to their business policies, right, we're getting a lot of business to move here, and I've been part of that. And I think we need to do more on both sides of the world.
I take issue, as a California resident working technology, I take issue with your comment, but I'll let it pass.
I'm glad that Das is taking care of the, comparing Texas to New York and California. So we're doing a little better for now, I'll say.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much. I want to turn it to the audience and see which questions you might have for our panelists. Yes, please.
Thank you, and thank you for the explanation about these opportunities. You talked a lot about the momentum that's there. We have the need for nearshoring, as you mentioned. Regionally, we need to take advantage of that. But what are the main challenges? And I want to go beyond just tariffs. What are the main challenges you identified to strengthen or to really tap into the potential that there is to increase the collaboration between Texas and Mexico? And what can be done to tackle these challenges that you identify?
Why don't we start with you, Daz, because you're actually executing going into Mexico and investing in Mexico. What challenges have you found?
Sure. I think we can come back to tariff in a little bit. A few things is, doing business in Mexico, I have met X number of Mexican business owners that ended up, approximately half of those not having a nearshoring team in Mexico. They went to Colombia or India. And why is that? You get a sense that there is more confidence needed in how some of the business policies needs to evolve out of Mexico. I mean, if you don't have the business owners from Mexico that lives here that not expanding in Mexico, I think there is a level of comfort. So I think Mexico is doing a good job to kind of enabling those business processes, not necessarily fast enough. So I would say that's one of those areas. Nobody changes overnight. It's a good progress that are happening. And I'm going to always go back to is that how can Mexico kind of look at is that how do we look at Texas and enable those business-friendly policies fast?
The ease of doing business.
That is correct.
You found it's not as easy doing business.
That is correct. So for example, when we registered our company, it took several months. In Texas, it takes 24 hours, right? So just as a real example, you discourage people when you can move fast enough. And so that's one. And then the second thing would be is that on the tariff side, and I'll just kind of talk about, and I get to talk about very candidly on this specific topic, is that I don't think 3-4 months down the road we're sitting here talking about there is a massive tariff on Mexico. I don't think the current administration wants tariff. I think there's a negotiation primarily focused on the border security and fentanyl. Once we take care of that, I think we've done a great job on that. We're going to have a great process on this. So if you are sitting here in Texas and looking at Mexico or somebody's asking you, tell them that that's not what's going to hold us back doing business with Mexico. I think there's other areas that progress are happening, and we're going to see additional progress really, really fast.
Excellent. Daniel, I mean, from the TAB, what do you hear from your membership in terms of things that can be improved and kind of the challenges of further integrating the Texan and the Mexican economy?
Yeah, so I see a champion of trade in Texas, Jerry Schrevel from IBC Bank. I mean, done a great job in so many areas. But one that I know that he and I have worked together is, and some of you might be familiar or not, but it's infrastructure development. As I mentioned, we expect that with tariffs at whatever level may be happening, stabilizing, trade will grow between Texas and Mexico. I mentioned it was $281 billion relationship last year. Imagine it will continue to grow as most business stabilizes and we do even more so together. We have, again, 28 ports connecting the land ports connecting Texas and Mexico. Some of those ports need a lot of infrastructure development on both sides of the border. If those developments are not made accordingly, we may start losing some GDP based on delays and other infrastructure-related problems. So again, it may not be the sexiest topic of the moment, but again, I'm very passionate. As a border kid myself, I'm from Eagle Pass, Texas. Border infrastructure is key to the trade relationship with Mexico and with North America. So just being able to work as a private sector with public-private partnerships, whatever we can do to promote the right level of infrastructure investment from both the Mexican side and the American side so that our infrastructure can keep up with the volume of the growth volume of trade between now and the future so that we don't experience any losses of potential to that.
Okay, so ease of doing business, infrastructure. What are the challenges that you're seeing from the Mexican side? I mean, what do you see?
Well, I would say that it's probably the perception or the awareness. Something that we are facing it. A lot of people are getting surprised by all the things that are happening in Yucatan and also in Mexico. And that's why we're doing this roadshow. Sometimes people just base their decision on what they're watching on CNN, and this is a risk for us. Or Fox News or, the chain that you might like. that you prefer. But this is something that we are working very hard on in order to eliminate those kinds of stereotypes, not to see Mexico as maquila, but also as this high-tech industry with talent, with capabilities as well.
There's a perception barrier there.
There is a perception barrier. I mean, we have to work a lot on that. And I would also add that we have to act fast enough. And we're aware of that. As Daz was saying, we have the plans, we have to act fast. Whenever you're from government, you always feel that you're running out of time. Because, I mean, the elections period and how political works, we run out of time, and we're aware of that. That's why since day one, since day minus one, we started working on this. And I believe this could be a challenge in order for us to act as fast as the market is demanding.
Excellent. Well, I think we're running out of time. I don't know if we're allowed a kind of a next question, or should we? Let's do another question with the grace of our host, John. Any additional questions for the panel? No? Okay, John, yes.
What can we do locally in Dallas-Fort Worth to be helpful to you? And thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for leading a delegation. But hopefully we can walk away at the end of today and you say, it'd be great if we could accomplish this, this, and this, and count on Dallas-Fort Worth for fill in the blank.
Thank you very much. Well, I would say that we could start by talking to each other. I mean, I've seen a lot of opportunities. We want to do like these tailor-made solutions in order to build these business cases for the industries that we already seen. To keep the doors open, that will be really, really, really helpful, because I believe this is just the beginning of a long relationship that has been going on, but it's about to be more stringent. So, I mean, having these conversations, having these meetings with the chambers, with the really important private sector and entrepreneurs and businessmen, is just great, you know, because we're like really finding will to work together, to be partners, and to start seeing all the opportunities from both sides, and also from commerce, but also from investment. So I would just summarize that, this comment, just leave the door open.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Help me kind of thank the panel and the panelists for this great conversation. Thanks so much.